Alright guys, it's been a while since I've done a video on the car. It's still on the same spot it's always been. I thought I'd run you through on what we've done so far. Progress is slow. I'm sort of getting a day, maybe a day and a half on the thing every week. But any progress is progress, I suppose. So yeah, let's have a look, eh? Okay, now I wasn't too sure where we're up to on the last video or what I've shown you, but basically what we've done so far is we've obviously got the boot for. But the reason for that was because of the new subframe. So the subframe is designed to take the R200 differential, which we're running over here. So that's going on. That's got a Cusco two-way in it. That's a big reason why I bought that particular differential. But so I fabricated up a frame here. So this frame, if I can get that without scratching it, is going to house the fuel cell. So we'll get that mocked up, and then I can show you from there where we're pretty much at. Before I do that, so you can see we've got mounting plates on the chassis rails there, so we're not actually, welding straight to the chassis, because that's thin. I'd be very surprised if it's more than a mil, only 0.8. So yeah, we definitely needed that, because obviously when this thing's full and banging around, and all the forces that are sort of going on in the back here, last thing I want is for this whole cage just to fly at the car, and basically the biggest fear is fire. Yeah, so we don't want that. Anyway, we'll get this thing mocked up, and then we'll go from there. Alrighty, so we've got it mocked in there, so you can see where it mounts there, obviously there to there. Now you're probably wondering why, instead of just going straight across, I've got these, I think it's about 30 odd degrees angles. Well, basically because in this corner we've got basically where the the tow hook mounts into the chassis rail here, so I've had to basically arc it forward. So instead of having obviously one at that end and straight on this end, I've basically just made it look even. So placement of the tank depended on mostly the gap down in here. So I needed to basically have access to the diff bolts with enough room without getting sort of having to struggle to do it. It was about 100 mil I think I gave myself in there, but I also wanted it far back enough that when the fittings obviously at this end come out of the unit, they're not real close to this area here, because I wanted the tank as far back as possible, so that if anything did happen in this area, we get shunted, it bends, whatever, we don't damage those fittings. So that's the thought process behind that. So we basically just fabbed this up. This is 32mm square tubing. I've got brackets on either side for the fuel pumps. So we basically got the, essentially, if I can get it out of the box. So I've got a check valve there, which I'll explain later. A shut-off valve. So these will basically be mounted underneath of the floor, like that, and so that's for those two pumps, and then we have another pump mounted here underneath as well. I haven't decided yet on whether we run a Carter lift pump, a Carter Black, to basically, well, let me explain this. So obviously the tank's going to be here, two fittings here, we're going to come out, only be the one fitting coming out, so one's going to get blocked up. Probably use it as a drain, so I have a drain, an AN fitting drain valve on that on one side anyway. So from there out, it's going to come along to the lift pump, we've got the excuse the but anyway, yeah, so the surge tank there. Now the surge tank is going to be mounted in this area up here behind the tank, so the tank's going to come up, sits up about this high, and then we're basically going to have the surge tank in the middle. So fuel tank to lift pump to surge tank, and obviously we're going to come around, and we're basically going to feed these lines from the surge tank to bulk fittings, because this is all going to be covered. So around the fuel tank I'm going to run an alloy sheet that's basically just going to butt up to the side of it, and you won't see any of this in the framework. Will all be underneath. The only thing that'll be sticking up will be the surge tank, the fuel tank in this area, surge tank there, and bulk fittings. And then basically the lines are going to run inside the car. Inside the car possibly. I'm still debating whether to run them inside or outside, just based on we have different regulations for different classes of racing over here, and I need to basically run with the setup that's going to be more beneficial for me. Obviously I don't want to get to a meeting and then they decide to pull me out of the class because of where my fuel lines are regulated. So NZDRA, which is our drag racing regulation authority, won't let you run the lines inside the car. However, Land Transport, which is our certification for road going vehicles, does allow it outside the car. But so I've yet to decide that. But anyway, it'll basically come through from a surge tank to the pump, and then boom, straight forward. So that's essentially what's going on here. I've got the two strap mounts. It's quite engineered, this really, and that's how I wanted it. Last thing I want is for that fuel tank to be moving around, getting sort of flung about. It's not a very big tank, but that's okay. But like I said, it's just, it's more security. So this is basically 5mm plate that I've welded up, and we'll bolt through there with some M10s, obviously grade 8 or bigger, and then we've got our straps here that will be bending up today. So as you can see, it's not thin, but it's not overly thick either. Now I've gone with steel. Just I find a lot more security in steel, and if obviously with the drilling through and bolting through, it gives us a bit more security for a long term. Alloy tends to the bolt holes elongate, and especially with the clamping down, alloy's quite soft. So I've just gone with steel. I mean, I'm not worried about weight in this thing. I've taken a shit ton out of it, and there will actually still more to come out of it. So yeah, I mean, it's not going to be a super light, but it's obviously not going to be super heavy either. So yeah, that's where we're at today. Obviously the interior is gone, well, most of the interior anyway, the back seats, etc. I'm still working on the front end of the car as well, so I've got to pull all the seats out. We're no longer using these. Got my pedal box there, my drift brakes. I was playing around with that last week. We're going to mount that somewhere in there. I've actually got to unfortunately get rid of my my cool little shift man. It just takes up too much room in this area when we're shifting. I need a smaller one, probably make it a Tomei one or something like that. But yeah, so we've got to essentially gut all this. So I'm going to pull the seats out, take all the carpet out, because I need to fabricate up a mount for the drift brake. And also, once we obviously put the cage in, I need to match the seats up with the harness bar, which is essentially a no-go with pretty much without having the seats in, because the harness bar's obviously got to match the height of the seats, etc., depending on where the seat holes are. So I've got to do all that. Wiring's come along, we've tidied all that up. Still got to wait for the engine bits to come in. So what we're waiting for on there is all the powder coating bits. So I've got obviously the cam covers away, being powder coated. I've got the new inlet manifold being powder coated. The crossover pipes being powder coated. I think that was basically it. But anyway, I need all that in. The TGV deletes. Sorry. So the TGV deletes are out being coated as well. So I need those in the car and everything. Set all that up and basically have all the injector plugs in to do the loom. Once I've done the loom, I can essentially set up my what's the term? Basically, it's a big single plug, a big Deutsch plug essentially. We're going to basically run a single Deutsch plug for the motor, which will basically go into there. I'll make a plate up for that. It'll be a single plug for the entire motor. So we just basically unturn it, boom, done deal, and that's all done. And then I'm going to have a single plug over this side for all the sensors. So my collection of stuff. There it is there. So this is essentially will be the entire thing that controls, well not controls, sorry, but houses all the wiring for the engine. So that's what's going on there. Let's go down housings and bulky fittings, washers, new alternator plug which I got from iWire out of the States. Great guys to deal with. If you ever need looms and stuff for your Subaru, check them out first. Got us some good work, and it wasn't even that expensive. I just can't find it anywhere here in New Zealand, and the one that I've got is just absolutely melted. It's gone, and there's no way I'm going to put it back on. Pins. So yeah, new plugs for the radiator. Boom. So I've got new fans going in there. We're essentially going to mount the fans on the outside here. So I've measured them up. They're basically going to fit into this gap in here, and that will essentially give me more room. If I can just get this out in here. There's as much room as I can in there. So I'm going to source a new harmonic balancer, get a proper motorsport spec one. Nothing wrong with the older ones, but I just don't, for the work that this thing's going to be getting, I just want something on the end of that that's going to properly do the job, for the RPMs and the power that we're going to be pulling. So yeah, got our Cusco pitch stopper in there, touch line, twin plate through in the Gura Racing twin plate, the 6 speeds in. And if you're ever wondering, these are phenolic spacers. I've run these for ages, just to help bring the intake temperatures down, going heat soak through the head. Through the inlet manifold from the head. Any little thing that we can do to help. So anyway, I'll crack on to getting these straps done, and once the straps are done, I'll be just going to tidy up the edges around the boot floor. Might even chuck a couple of tack welds along it, just because it's it's essentially 2 bits of sheet right where they meet, from the boot floor to the actual essentially to the chassis rail. So it's just off there, and this piece at the back's that's a single piece. It's not too bad, but I just want to just tidy it up a bit, and then I'll essentially be running. I'm thinking about just basically running some M8s or maybe some M6 live nuts in along this edge, right along, and then just bolting the panel into that. I've just got to keep in mind that basically with the bulkhead fittings that go through it, I've got to basically make sure that when I pull that floor out, if we ever need to, those bulkhead fittings come out with it easily enough. or in a way that basically I can pull the whole floor out, and somehow they aren't affected. So it's something I need to think about, because obviously my whole thing with this car is accessibility and making it easy enough to work on. You know, it's got to be easy enough to work on in the future, because we all know we're going to work on them. The last thing I want to do is have to freaking cut stuff out, pull it apart. So yeah, that's where we're at. We'll crack onto these straps and carry on. Alright guys, quick update. I didn't realise that the my bits have been sitting here. Holy crap. So essentially we've got most of our powder coating done, except for the inlet manifold. There's an incident with that, but yeah, it was basically dropped in the oven when they were doing the powder coating, and it's dented the top of the tube. So yeah, so we're trying to see if they can get the tube out. So the bend out in the tube. I don't think they're going to. Or essentially we're going to have to get a new manifold. But hey, that's the way the cookie crumbles. So came back to this stuff. It's got crossover pipe, the radiator bracket for the overflow tank. That's the overflow tank or header tank. Underneath here, TGB deletes. Now if you're wondering what all this is, it's essentially attached to that. We had to block it up so that the basically the powder coating and the media blasting, because we had to get a media blasted first, didn't get inside all the butterfly holes and etc, blah blah blah. So that's why it's got all that on it. And then we've got our covers there. Beautiful. Yeah, that's good. We can get the cams covered up. Been a bit worried about those being exposed. I mean, it's not gonna damage them too much sitting there. Like, there's no real moisture in here, you know, stuff like that. But it's just a bit of peace of mind, you know. So yeah, we'll go today. Sure. All right, carry on.
Klappat hakten alla fullfest hela dagen.
Alright, so what you might have seen in that last bit there, I was just figuring out bends, seeing what sort of bend I could get from basically just folding it over a piece of wood. I don't have a bender handy to me. We do have one at the wood engineering shop we do use, but it's Saturday and they're already shut up, so it's alright. I'm not going to sort of let that slow us down. I was also just testing whether the sort of how it looked. There we go. You know, like that. So not too bad. Usually that alright. Allowed a bit extra. Just to trim it off and sort of radius the edges, etc. That actually worked out not too bad. So it's basically folding over number two. So I might actually carry on with that and see how we can get from there. Alright guys, bit of an update. We've managed to get the new straps folded up and just test fitted them up. So we've got them. Here we go. It's actually a bit of a pain in the ass really, to hand form them. That's what I had to use. But yeah, now we got there in the end. They fit nice and tight, and nice and tight around there. And there's just a little bit of place, so when we clamp them down, it actually pushes down on the fuel cell. So yeah, no, it's nice. So we'll get those etch primed up and painted the same black, the satin black, and the Armalite paint that I'm using, just something a little bit stronger than usual paint. And then that's finally done. So it took a little longer than I expected, but I just really wanted them to sort of fit nice, and because obviously they're, you know, you're going to see those when you look in the back, so they need to look pretty good. So we'll yeah, so we'll get those tidied up, painted up, and on to the next story. Alright guys, so we got the straps drying up. It's still wet outside, so basically we've got the frame locked up in there. So go ahead and pack it up, check everything straight, and then we should be good to go. We'll be ready to pretty much fully welded in. And, it's another massive part of the project sorted. So yeah, let's get on to it.
Klappat hakten alla Fullfest hela dagen. Egen mjöl från livets grottekvarn. Fullfest hela dagen. Stå på skor, det har vi alltid gjort. Så det är fullfest hela dagen.
Alright, we've got it tacked in there. I had to change a couple of settings on the welder, but she's tacked in there. So I got my welding jacket there just to protect the paint and my packing each piece. So yeah, it's time to carry on and do the rest of it.
Good morning, sun. Good morning, light. Good morning, sun. How are you? Skies above. Gee, it's great to be alive and love. Good morning, sun. Good morning, good morning, sun. How are you? Skies above. Gee, it's great to be alive and love. Good morning, sun. Good morning, light. Good morning, sun. How are you? Skies above. Gee, it's great to be alive and love.
Alright guys, it's day 2 now. Yesterday wasn't that great. So what I basically did is I went to weld the fuel cell cage into the car. And I was having dramas with the bloody my welding helmet. It's a new one I've got. Trying to set the settings up. When it was getting dark, there's not a hell of a lot of light in there. That's about all I've got. So I really struggled, and I should have just stopped. Really should have just stopped, but carried on and ended up making a mirror of it. So I had to basically die grind the welds off. This wasn't going to fall out or anything, but I know I could do better. So that's basically what I did. I essentially die grinded all the welds off. I didn't like. There's only a couple on there, to be honest, and all my overheads were sweet as. My verticals, but all the, you know, my standard over the head, looking down welds were fucking shit. Just put it lightly. So I was die grinding up, and on top of that, I had to go get new carbide burr bits. 3 places I tried. And, so I got them in the end, 70 volts later. That's it. So yeah, that was good. So as you can see, a lot bigger. I was basically running it too cold, and they were just piling up. So got some nice meaty welds on there. Good penetration. So that is not going anywhere at all. So I'm just waiting on me strips and some bolts for those, and then basically I'll blow it off. I'm just going to tidy up those end bits, spray some black over the welds, have some extra primer and then some black, because eventually we're just going to underseal all this in here anyway, just to tidy it up. You can see any of it anyway once we put the under tray in. But we'll do that, and then I can pretty much drop that puppy in there. And that should be, I'd say, for the last time, I think. So yeah, it's been a bit of a drama, but it's a learning curve, and it's, that is my whole thing on this car, is to learn as much as I can, various things, the electronics, fabrication. I'm not going to be doing the tuning. Yeah, it's a little bit over my head, but I'm keen to sort of, sit in there and see what's going on. I know a little bit, but not enough to, risk an expensive motor build. So I'm going to carry on, getting it tidied up, and then to the next stage. Yeah, I've got to actually fabricate a panel for that to cover all the frame and close up the floor a bit, so that'll be on that. We'll do that on another video. Anyway, good, thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe, all that YouTube stuff.